Dr. Michael Greger.
Dr. Michael Greger.
We've got Dr. Michael Greger here.
Please join me in welcoming Dr. Michael Greger.
Dr. Greger, welcome to England.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. Let's get straight into it because I know you've not got a huge amount of time. Everyone wants to see you. Tell me a little bit about the progress in the plant-based movement recently.
There's been tremendous progress, particularly in the health field. At least that's certainly my perspective. So in the States, there's just been a real surge, a real tipping point in terms of the plant-based nutrition movement. There are now entire conferences. There's an international plant-based nutrition healthcare conference. Hundreds of physicians, other medical professionals get together, talk about how they're using this in their practice. I mean, that didn't exist a few years ago. And it's really, really exciting. There's new vegan medical clinics opening up, where all the folks on staff are using lifestyle medicine approaches, not just to prevent disease, but to stop and reverse it as well.
Tell me about the main players involved. You've got Nutrition Facts growing, you've got the Physicians Committee doing a lot of work. Who are the main players and what's been achieved specifically in the last few months and last year? What's been the memorable moment for you?
Well, so, a lot of people don't know about Scott Stoll, who started this, PBNHC, this plantrition project, this plant-based nutrition conference. He's been doing these immersion programs for Whole Foods for a long time now. He has a book coming out.
Okay.
I'm very excited about that. He's just had transformative experiences. He's just a physician in practice. There's people all over who've been doing this in their own little, hometowns. But it's just great to get so many people together, start networking. So there's wonderful resources out now, documentaries. We got a number of documentaries coming up, like The Game Changers and Eat Yourself Alive. And I mean, this is an exciting time to be in the movement. I think, a lot of it is just there's so much, we're going to get there if only because the healthcare costs are spiraling out of control, right? Climate change. I mean, we're just going to be forced to have to take these, safe, simple, side effect-free solutions, cheaper, safer, more effective than conventional medical approaches, because we're talking about the leading killers, right? The leading cause of death. I mean, the good news is that the vast majority of premature death and disability is preventable with a plant-based diet and other healthy lifestyle behaviors. We have the power, we have tremendous power over our medical destiny and longevity.
You talk passionately about the benefits of plant-based diet, particularly reversing heart disease. My old boss, he was a professor of epidemiology called Professor Tim Spector. He said he met Dr. Dean Ornish. Dr. Dean Ornish said the thing with the plant-based movement is you get the sense you're either with them or against them. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But also what he said was there aren't any large randomised control trials. He said, Dr. Dean Ornish, show me the large randomised... Why aren't there any? If we've known about this since Pritikin's day, where's the data, the large randomised control trials?
Well, look, Ornish published his first RCT, randomised control trial, July 1990 in The Lancet, the most prestigious medical journal in the world. There it was, black and white, proving with quantitative angiography that we can reverse heart disease, open up arteries without drugs, without surgery, just a healthy plant-based diet and other lifestyle changes. There it was. Right? So we've known about it for decades, but there it was, published in some of the most prestigious medical journals in the world, The Lancet, JAMA. Yet, what happened? Nothing. Hundreds of thousands of people continue to die of a reversible, preventable disease.
So it's being ignored.
It's being lost down the rabbit hole and ignored. I said, wait a second. If effectively the cure to our number one killer could get lost like that, what else is there in the medical literature that could help my patients, but just didn't have a corporate budget driving its promotion? I made it my life's mission to find out. That's why I started nutritionfacts.org, and that's why I wrote my new book, How Not to Die.
What I find very interesting is you say the system needs to take on board this message. But the whole point of Nutrition Facts was to go round the system. Tell me a little bit about the democratization of information and the role that's played and why that's been good for the movement, I guess.
When I started out ignoring the general public and going straight, trying to train the trainers effectively, going around speaking at all the medical schools in the States to try to, get the next generation of doctors educated, but then I realized that's a slow way about it. We don't have time. People are dying now. I don't need to, for another 10 years for them to kind of slowly take over the medical system. People are dying now. We need to take this directly to the people. And thankfully, thanks to the internet age, we now have this democratization of information. Now everyone has access. Before, the doctors had a monopoly on information about health. And so, Big Pharma, the food industry, all they had to do is get to the doctors. The tobacco industry, as long as they could get the AMA on board by writing them checks for $10 million, and so they came out opposed to the Surgeon General's report against smoking in 1964. As long as they control the doctors, they control the health message. No longer. Now people can get to the science directly, educate themselves, and we can't wait until society catches up to the science, because it's a matter of life and death.
USDA, I read their mission is to expand markets for agricultural products. But at the same time, they're coming out with the dietary guidelines. Is that one of the challenges you have in the States?
The USDA has an inherent conflict of interest. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, look, the same thing happened here in Great Britain. Right there was the Ministry of Food and Forestry, right? And then the mad cow debacle came, and they basically dissolved the department, right? Put food safety in charge of, medical professionals in charge of food safety instead of agricultural professionals. Same conflict of interest exists in the States. U.S. Department of Agriculture has this dual mission to promote agricultural products. That's what they're there for. But also, we put them in charge of food safety, meat inspections, helping to come up with the nutrition guidelines. So when it comes to eat more messaging, the message is clear. Eat more fruits and vegetables. There it is, right there in black and white in the dietary guidelines. But what about eat less messaging? Then there's a conflict. So what do you get? Instead of eat less meat, eggs, dairy, junk, what do they say? Eat less saturated and trans fatty acids, things like that. Biochemical components, right? Because they don't want to mention foods because that's too politically unpalatable.
But they'll mention vegetables, they'll mention fruits.
Well, they'll mention fruits and vegetables because it's an eat more messaging. Everybody's happy. Promote agricultural products and promote health. If they can do it without undermining the profit motive, they'd be happy to make the American public healthier.
In your book, you use words such as drug lords, quite conspiratorial words, some would argue, when you talk about the medical industry. I think I saw that in the preface. Can you just explain a little bit about how corrupt the medical industry is in the US? It's kind of related to what you talked about already.
Well, there's a number of barriers for doctors. So you say, okay, we understand why some of the mainstream medical associations are sucking up to industry because they're being sponsored by Big Pharma, for example. But why aren't individual doctors speaking out? Well, there's a severe nutrition deficiency in doctors in education. We just weren't taught this in medical school, so we graduate without these powerful tools in our medical toolbox. We just weren't taught how to teach people to take better care of themselves, right? But of course, there's other barriers. There's lack of time, lack of reimbursement. Doctors aren't paid to tell people how to take better care of themselves, and also there's much of medical education, both during medical school and postgraduate medical education, is paid for by the drug industry. I mean, the number one reason people go to their doctor in North America is what are called blood pressure checks, and they keep going to get their blood pressure checked so they can tweak the blood pressure medications. And so that's a boon not only to Big Pharma, which sell these chronic disease drugs that people take every single day for the rest of their lives because they're not actually treating the cause of their disease, right? Because they're not actually changing their diet. So they need to be treated every day for the rest of their lives. So it's the boon to the Big Pharma, but also that's where the doctor's getting their next BMW from and sending their kids to college. I mean, it's the bread and butter of the GPs, of the primary care docs, is these blood pressure checks, which wouldn't be necessary if they didn't have high blood pressure. The number one killer risk factor in the world, 9 million people dying of high blood pressure, a disease that need not occur if people, a plant-based diet, something we've known since the 1920s.
Do you think people are ready to receive that information? Because you talk very passionately about the science. The science is clearly there, but are people ready to take that on board?
There are people ready. Not everybody's ready. Look, there are still people who are smoking cigarettes. I mean, who to this day doesn't know that smoking's bad, right? But there's been this tremendous drop in smoking. The peak year was 1964 in the States of smoking per capita, about 4,000 cigarettes a year, but most Americans smoking about half a pack on average a day. That was the peak year. What happened in that year? Surgeon General's report. As soon as the government came on board, now it took 7,000 studies before the first Surgeon General's report came out in 1964. You think after the first 6,000 they could have given people a little heads up or something? No, 7,000, 25 years, 7,000, countless smoker deaths. Finally they came out. They finally acknowledged what we've known for years. Smoking causes cancer. And what happened? Smoking rates have dropped every year since. All right? So now, last year, the World Health Organization comes out, the IARC, the official body which determines what causes cancer, what doesn't cause cancer, came out. Processed meat is a class 1 carcinogen. We know processed meat causes cancer as much as we know that smoking causes cancer, asbestos causes cancer, radiation causes cancer. Yet, people continue to send their kids to school with these lunch meat products, chicken nuggets, these processed meat products. We regulate tobacco. There are warning labels on tobacco. There should be similar regulations to protect people from processed meat.
Time scale, what do you think? Smoking, it took, you're saying, 50 years between when the science was known and when the institutions acted upon that. With meat, it's a little bit different, surely, because they've said processed meat is bad, but surely it's going to take a while for them to say all animal products are detrimental to health.
Well, look, the government, so the Centers for Disease Control, on their website should be processed meat causes cancer, just like smoking causes cancer. Let's at least get that information out there. So, you're right. Meat is considered a probable human carcinogen, unprocessed meat. Good enough for me. I'd rather stay away from probable human carcinogens as well. But look, let's start with the low-hanging fruit. We know bacon, hot dogs, sausage, lunch meat, turkey slices, chicken nuggets. These foods cause cancer. We're certain of it. We have scientific certainty, consensus among the scientists, the expert committee that came together to determine this. Let's get that out of our diet. In the very least, now that the science is solid, how many years, how many people's lives are we going to have to lose before we finally come on board? Look, it's your body, your choice. You want to smoke cigarettes? Go for it, right? You should just be aware of the predictable consequences of your actions. It's up to each of us to make our own decisions as to what to eat and how to live, but we should make these choices consciously, educating ourselves about the predictable consequences of our actions.
You talked earlier about the barriers. I want to talk about low-carb diets. I know you've written a book on low-carb diets. I know you've talked about them before. I don't really want to get into the science. You've done that. But I want to know whether you think these physicians recommending meat-based low-carb diets, do you think they're actively putting this misinformation out, or are they just misinformed themselves? Is it a lack of integrity?
Yeah, so that's a good question, right? So, I mean, at a certain point, it doesn't really matter, right? Whether they're doing it just to sell books, or they're doing it because they've deluded themselves into thinking that this is true, and they haven't really looked at the science. Either way, what they're doing is they're harming people, right? And so, yes, people love hearing bad news about the good news about their bad habits. So, that's how you sell magazines. Butter is back, something like that. But you're selling the public short. The public deserves and needs to know that there is a consensus among the nutrition scientific community going back decades about the foundations of healthy eating and healthy living, and that is more whole plant foods like more fruits and vegetables, and minimize their intake of animal foods and processed junk.
Have you had any backlash or hate from anybody about what you promote? Like, for example, from the low-carb doctors?
I'm sure.
You're sure?
Stories? So, for example, the Atkins Corporation, when I came out with my book against low-carb guides, sued me for libel. I was making libelous statements against Atkins, saying his diet was bad. Of course, he dropped dead before they were able to carry out their lawsuit, and they went bankrupt 4 months after the book came out, so they weren't able to. But I published the attorney letter online with a point-by-point rebuttal. So I encourage the meat and junk food industry to sue me. I could use the extra traffic.
Are you worried though? Because you do realise you're messing with an industry that's bigger than oil. There's been wars over oil. How much resistance can we expect from the meat and dairy industries in the future?
Well, look, the meat and dairy industry, they don't wake up every morning and say, how can we kill people, how can we kill animals, right? What do they wake up every morning and say, I want to make money, all right? So, very recently in Meeting Place magazine, which is a leading industry meat publication, the cover story was on plant-based meats. Was on,
Meat substitute market.
Right, meat substitute market. And they're saying, look, we got the distribution, we got the machines, we got like the sausage-making machines. These vegan companies are taking away our market share. Let's get into this. It's like the dairy company, buying up Silk soy milk. They're putting out soy milk. They already got the distribution, they got the packaging, they got it all down. They don't care. In fact, it's probably easier to make soy milk. You don't have to deal with the manure. You don't have to deal with all that. I mean, it's just inefficient, right? From a purely capitalist standpoint, to make an egg going through the chicken and all the feed and all the hassle and work, why you could make egg-free mayonnaise, and there we go. I mean, it's like it's cheaper, it's safer. So these industries are jumping on board. So they just want to make money. And we show them a different way to make money. They make money in a different way, right? Coca-Cola executives don't wake up and say, how can we make little kids fat? They say, how can we make money? Well, let's take the cheapest possible ingredients like sugar, because the taxpayers subsidize the sugar industry, charge a couple bucks for it. They make a lot of money. Junk makes a lot of money. Broccoli doesn't make a lot of money. But if people buy broccoli, people stop buying this junk, we can shift the industry over.
Vegan junk, you mentioned a lot of corporations are doing well, starting to affect the economy. You've got Follow Your Heart making vegan eggs. You've got, I can't remember the other a lot of companies, that's what I'm trying to say. Do you support those companies, and do you think the mock meats they're making are healthy?
Well, they're healthier. So certainly, I consider them transition foods. Great ways to get people to move over. Most people who have developed this palate to kind of the standard Western diet, they can't go straight to salads and lentils and sweet potatoes. I mean, it just wouldn't taste. It's just, they have a history. They've developed this certain kind of palate. So we can say, look, everything you enjoyed before, you can enjoy. You like burgers, we got veggie burgers. You like burgers, we got anything you want. You like ice cream, we got ice cream. Like anything, okay. That's great. That's a way to slowly shift the market, shift people over. But I just don't want people to stop there. I want people to continue to improve their diet. So sure, cholesterol-free, less saturated fat, etc. But even better, the more whole plant foods we can get into our diet, pack in, the healthier it will be long term.
What I wanted to get into was I wanted to know your thoughts on the vegan community. How do you feel we are representing ourselves at the moment? Do you think we should focus on health? Or, because what I'm trying to say is the mainstream think we're really wacky and that kind of thing. Do you think we should have like a health focus primarily, or should people talk about the ethical issues, or both, I guess?
As a speaker, the number one rule of professional speaking is know thine audience, right? It's like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
You're talking about young people, find out what they're passionate about.
Yeah.
Right? If they're passionate about one thing, you talk about the implications. I talk mostly to professional medical audiences, and they care about the medicine, so I talk about health. But for people that don't care about health, I don't bring up health. You got to know who you're talking to. You're talking to women, you talk about breast cancer. You're talking to men, you talk about prostate cancer and erectile dysfunction. You talk to young people, I talk about acne. I talk about athletic performance. I talk about things people care about. I'm not going to talk about, acne to the 80-year-old who's got crushing chest pain. But it's just, and so, I think it should depend on, who we're trying to reach. Frankly, the health argument, when we have such this overwhelming balance of evidence and support, then it's like, who doesn't want to be healthy? It's like, that reaches everybody.
Doesn't reach everybody, though. I don't think it does.
Some people care about animals, some people don't.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to live a long, healthy life? Who doesn't want to live a long, healthy life? But look, I've got a bias, and that's just my background.
So you've got a bias. Do you think that affects your credibility? That you've got the whole vegan thing has come up on your Wikipedia page. It says, I'm playing devil's advocate here. But on your Wikipedia page, it says some people criticised you for cherry picking because you've got vegan motives. Have you tried to kind of cover up the whole animal thing because you want to keep that credibility and just make it health? Do Do you understand the question I'm asking?
No.
It must be difficult because it's all
there's
evidence-based.
nothing covering up. I mean, I work for the Humane Society of the United States, the largest animal protection organization in the world. What am I covering up? I mean, I'm the director of public health of the HSUS. I mean, in terms of cherry picking, that's like the tobacco industry saying, that American Cancer, and they've actually said this, American Cancer Society is cherry picking. They're only talking about the studies that smoking says is bad for you. We've got a stack of 100 studies, and actually went to Senate subcommittee hearings, 100 studies that say smoking is not just harmless, but good for you. Why doesn't the American Cancer Society ever talk about all the studies showing that smoking is healthy for you? Because it's not a conspiracy. They're just talking about the overall balance of evidence. And they want to reflect what the balance of evidence, and the balance of evidence shows that smoking is bad for you. So that's what they present to the people. The same thing with a plant-based diet. The balance of evidence suggests that these are healthy foods, these are unhealthy foods. The more we can eat over here, the less we can eat over here, the healthier we may be. There's only one diet ever been proven to reverse heart disease in the majority of patients, a plant-based diet. If that's the only thing a plant-based diet can do, reverse a number one killer, number two killer here in the UK, shouldn't that be the default diet until proven otherwise? And the fact that it can also prevent, arrest, or reverse other leading killers, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, would seem to make the case simply overwhelming. There's only one diet ever proven to do that. It's hard to cherry pick when there's only one cherry.
I love how passionate you are about this. What drives that passion? When I see your nutrition facts videos, very, very passionate. When I saw you talking at the advisory committee for the dietary guidelines, I think a year or two ago, very, very passionate. What drives that passion? And have you had to sacrifice a lot?
The passion, well, look, I mean, it's why anyone really goes into medicine.
Yeah, you can keep going.
Go to stock markets. People want to take care of people. I mean,